Hi, everybody. There's a question today about taking binders and becoming dehydrated from taking them. So I'm just going to read it out here just before jumping into this. As per usual, nothing in this video should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you have any issues where you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. So the question here says, I'm having trouble with being dehydrated, although I drink copious amounts of water. If I take binders or something to help me with sluggish bowels, such as an herbal bowel mover, then I'm even more dehydrated. Any suggestions on how to stay hydrated while trying to eliminate mold? Thank you, is what it says. And thank you for the question as well. Actually, let me see here. It says read more. No, okay, we're good. That was it. So good question. In my experience, some of my patients have a real challenge when they take binders. It can be just sometimes impossible for them to actually be able to tolerate a binder. That's rare, but it does happen in some cases. I think that in those cases, typically there's a sort of a history of constipation or things like that. But in terms of binders causing somebody to feel dehydrated, it's not a typical thing that I'd run into in my practice. One of the things that I would be thinking if I had a patient and they're like, oh, I'm getting dehydrated, especially in a case where they're taking binders, is I'd be wondering what is their cellular hydration status looking like. And I'd be wondering if there might be something like a dysautonomia going on where there's actually a lower than optimal blood volume, which could actually lead to some cellular dehydration and ultimately lead to some different challenges. And then if one's taking a binder, well, binders are theoretically supposed to just be sugar and spice and everything nice, where they come along and bind up toxins and help them to not get reabsorbed and then get eliminated from the body. Binders, in my experience, sometimes trigger a lot of detox reactions in patients who are susceptible to that type of thing. And so I think that in my clinical experience, at least, I feel that the binders themselves can certainly sort of perpetuate more detox than the body's ready for. What's that going to do? Well, that's going to put further stress on the system. That's going to maybe further exacerbate a dysautonomia and then maybe lead to some further cellular dehydration. So that'd be one thing that I would definitely be screening my patient for if they had that type of issue with feeling dehydrated with a binder. Beyond that, it would also beg the question what type of hydration my patient's using. So what I found personally is, and I'm again, not offering any medical advice here and not advocating that anybody else do this. Talk to your clinician about making any changes like this, in my opinion. But one thing that I found personally is that when I started adding a little pinch of salt to my water, I found that my hydration really improved. I used to just drink tons and tons of water. I don't have my gigantic mug, but just by size comparison beside my head, I'm pretty big guy, 6'3". It's a fairly large mug. I have another one that's actually maybe 25% bigger than this one. I would just be constantly drinking and just to stay hydrated. I didn't really think much about it. But once I started adding a little bit of salt to my water intake probably went down by half. Also, I found that when I was playing sports, started adding some salt to my water, notice that seemed to help too. I mean, that's not rocket science. That's like Gatorade. Like, it's been known for a long time that electrolytes help with hydration replenishment, with with physical exertion. But even just day to day, it's been very helpful for my overall hydration. And I've found this with a lot of other patients as well. I've had patients who are literally drinking 4 to 10 liters of water a day. I think my max that I ever saw was 10 liters a day. And then once we started adding, or the patients started adding salt or other electrolytes to their water, then their fluid consumption just dropped dramatically. So I'd also be wondering about how efficiently is that water actually getting absorbed. If we think about evolutionarily speaking, like what kind of water would our ancestors have been drinking? Well, we'll be like drinking out of lakes and rivers and puddles and things like that. There'd be a lot of particulate matter in there. And when there's more particulate matter in something that we're consuming, then there's better absorption of that. It changes the osmolarity of the fluid and it just helps with the overall absorption. Now, again, I'm not insinuating that somebody go out and start drinking out of mud puddles, but just to drive the point home, it does, just having that pure H2O, is that really the most natural way for us to be taking in fluid or water? And I would say no, arguably not. So those are just a couple of the thoughts off the top of my head. Thank you for the question. I would definitely recommend talking to your clinician about just some of these ideas because there should be a solution that can be figured out for helping with this. So again, thank you for the question. If anybody has any questions about this topic or anything else, please post in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.